I'm Brittany Davis.
And I'm Leanne Slaton.
And we're the House Sisters. We're here today with
Joe the Mortgage Giant with Golden Bay Mortgage Group.
Awesome.
And we want to talk about the Goldilocks syndrome that we've been experiencing in this industry. So it's kind of an interesting the way that buyers and sellers and their perception of the market during certain times. And the feeling as if it's just never the perfect time.
Yeah. It's too hot, it's too cold, and it will never be just right.
Right. So basically, in the last 2 years, houses have been flying off the shelves, and buyers were okay with paying $50,000 to $100,000 over the asking price. But right now, the interest rates are in the high sixes, and that is a really big issue for a lot of buyers coming into the market.
It definitely affects affordability.
It does affect affordability, but it's insane to me that 6 months ago, people were willing to pay $50,000 to $100,000 cash out of pocket to get a house, but now a $200 difference in their mortgage payment is making or breaking the decision.
Right. It's like, why don't you just hold that $50,000 in the bank somewhere and use it towards the mortgage that's a little higher than what you anticipated as payment?
Well, so much it's so different now, right? Because out of pocket, you'd be spending a lot less money, right? With the lower sales prices and seller's credits. And the interest rate is temporary, right? We always like to say that you marry the home and date the rate, right? Because let's say you buy the house and it's high interest rates right now. And a year from now, a year and a half from now, interest rates change. We're going to keep an eye on that and easily turn around and refinance you into a much better product, right? Whether that's, lower, getting rid of mortgage insurance, just lowering the interest rate. And the refinance is really, really affordable, right? It would be with no money out of pocket. So.
See, go into refinancing a little bit, because I feel like there's a lot of buyers out there that don't really understand the process. It's really intimidating. They think that, you need to have to renovate something in order to do it, or there's just they don't know the why behind it and the how.
Yeah. So refinancing is simple. It's a gathering of a few documents, right? We basically are restructuring your loan. The restructure could be going back to a new loan that has the original, let's say, 30-year loan term, right? We could go into a 27-year loan term if you didn't want to lose any time in your loan, right? Let's say you were comfortable with the payment, you just want to pay less interest, right? We get you a lower interest rate. In some cases, you might want to pull cash out, use equity that you've earned, in this high market, to do repairs and renovations. And there are times when interest rates get low enough where refinancing and pulling cash out, you could actually have a lower payment than you originally had.
Wow.
The process right now, you are looking at something that takes normally 21 days or less. You would have a skip mortgage payment.
Oh, nice.
And so there's so many good things. It's very inexpensive, right?
And you said no money out of pocket?
Yeah, so it can, with the refinance, everything gets rolled into the loan.
Wrapped back in.
So the normal cost of a refinance is $3,000, $3,500, right? We would look at what the return on your investment is. So let's say I can save you $200 a month. How long would it take to recoup that investment, right? And so normally, if 24 months, that would be a great time, right? Let's say within 24 months, I'm actually saving every month from where I was, right?
Right. You'd pay yourself back for the cost of doing that refinance.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you would, talking to a good lender, right? They're going to explain to you the benefits of doing a refinance. It's not always the best thing to do for people.
Right.
Right. But if it does make sense, we'll outline all those ideas, give you your options, explain the process, and kind of can get it done really quick.
So in this market, the reason why refinance is so important is because we haven't seen rates this high in the last few years. So with the rates being in the high sixes, if you purchase a house now, you're in a fixed rate mortgage, if that's the scenario you choose, at let's just say 6.75%. If in 12 months, the rate goes down to 5.25%, you can then refinance your house at the 5.25%, which will significantly lower your payment if you're at an average sales price of $400,000 to $500,000.
Right.
So if you can afford the payment, with the idea that when the rates go down, you'll refinance the property and it'll restructure your loan so that your monthly payment is less, then that can just be a really good tool, because honestly, right now, you are probably going to get a property under the list price, and you may be able to negotiate some seller credits, which could pay for a couple of things. Closing costs, so less cash out of pocket for you at the end of the transaction, or a seller buy down, which I'll let Joe talk about. It's when you receive a credit and you use it to buy down the interest rate on the loan you're obtaining. So there's a couple different scenarios you can do with buying down the interest rate, which is awesome if the seller will pay for it right now.
Right.
I mean, you always have that option as a buyer to pay for it yourself if you have money that you are willing to spend on that. But Joe can talk about what that seller buy down is and what that looks like in today's market, and how really buying a house now may be more affordable than it really was 6 months to a year and a half ago, you know?
Yeah, so a seller-funded buy-down, there are two options. Number one's a permanent buy-down. So permanent buy-down can be done by the seller or by the buyer's funds, right? You basically buy the interest rate down permanently. So let's say the interest rate is a 6.75. You would spend, let's say, 1 point or 2 points, right? It'll be listed normally. That's 1% or 2% of the loan amount to buy their rate down to, let's say, a 6.25. This is great when rates are a little bit lower, but in this current market, you don't necessarily want to spend a bunch of extra money to personally buy it down, right? Because interest rates will come down, and again, you have a chance to refinance.
But if the seller's willing to pay for that.
So that's right now where the big thing is a seller-funded buy-down, right? Most of these are done on what they call a temporary or let's say a 2-1 buy-down. Basically, you have an interest rate of, let's say, the 6.75, and you do a 2-1 buy down. The seller will pay this cost. So your first year will be 2% lower than your interest rate, right? So instead of a 6.75, you'll have an interest rate for the first year of 4.75. So this allows you to get acclimated to the new payment, right? Sometimes you have payment shock, right? Maybe you're living with your parents and you never had a mortgage, or maybe you were, had a smaller house and you're buying a bigger house and it's a bigger payment, right? This helps with that shock. And then the second year, it increases by 1%. So now it would be a 5.75% interest rate. So it's, it's a progression, right, into getting, more comfortable with it. And then the third year would be the 6.75. The hope with these temporary buy downs is that within this period of time, interest rates drop low enough to where you can do a permanent refinance to a lower interest rate and there's be an overall better situation.
Nice.
Within the first 2 years. So the seller would pay for the temporary buy down, ideally. And then you would
refi
before it goes back up to what would have been your fixed mortgage rate at the time of acquiring the loan.
And the best part about this, right, is in this market, sellers are motivated to sell, right? So they're much more likely to give that. And from the buyer's perspective, right, when you go to refinance, you didn't waste all this money buying the rate down. The seller paid for that. So that way, now it's a win-win for you.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And it can still, sellers are still motivated to give these types of credits because, there are people who need to move. Right. There's always someone that the market is good for.
Yep.
Right.
At any given time, the market is good for someone, right?
Right. And
when it's super low, it's great for investors. Yeah. When it's super high, it's awesome for people who want to sell their property and retire and go out of state, And
so much of it is just having the right plan, right? Just maybe it's not the market it was, but we deal with the market that it is, and we have the game plan to make the adjustments as we move forward.
Right.
Buying real estate is by far the best way to gain, wealth, right?
Right.
So the sooner you get in, we'll have appreciation. There's all kinds of positive things. Over time, property doesn't lose value, right? Temporarily, maybe, but
it always bounces.
Right. If you look at, the trends from the 1950s, the trends go like this.
Yes.
With little ups and downs in betweens.
That's why you don't wait to buy, you wait to sell.
Buy real estate and wait. Yep.
Yeah, and property value really only matters when you're going to sell. Right. And so one of the things we're hearing a lot right now is about the crash. Is the market going to crash? Right? And the reality is it's not going to be the crash like we saw in 2008, 2009. We may see, property values go lower for a little bit, right? Just because the market was maybe a little bit overinflated, or maybe it's just the seasonality of it. But ultimately, there's just not enough inventory to handle the demand. So we shouldn't see anything like that.
Right. And so in California, it does have a lack of housing, just in general, rental housing, houses to purchase, condos, townhomes. The population supersedes the amount of property we have to accommodate that population.
Well, I mean, there was for years, there was too much inventory from the original crash, right? So builders weren't building. So number one, you had a lack of building going on. And then you tie that in with increased population growth. You have, with these bigger populations, a lot more people are coming to that period of time where they need to move up. So there's all kinds of different things that lead into it, but it's a good time to buy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a better time to buy than to rent.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you're paying somebody else's mortgage if you're renting.
Yes.
And rents, they'll keep going up. You won't see them go down. Whereas a mortgage payment, you can, in many cases, control, your financial situation.
The mortgage that you feel a little uneasy on right now, you're in 2 years, the rent that you would be paying instead of getting into that mortgage is going to be extremely higher than what you were paying and what you were initially uneasy about. Rates or rentals never go down. It's just like the housing market.
Well, and we grew up and with our mom is a property manager, and we know that.
Yeah,
they go up and
those owners don't ever want to go back on what their business. They have P&Ls that they look at and they go, okay, how do we bring more money to the bottom line? And that's rental increases. You know, so they're not going to take that away from themselves. They're going to continue to push up. So if you are uneasy about a mortgage that will never move for 30 years, if nothing else is going to go down lower as you refinance out of these terms, then there shouldn't be a hesitation, because rental market is just going to keep increasing, and it's so unaffordable right now. Like, it just makes me want to cry hearing when our mom comes home. It's like, can you imagine what I'm renting this 2-bedroom apartment for? $2,800. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's more than my mortgage. And I have a house with a backyard and a 2-car garage and in a neighborhood that I really love, no neighbors next to me, so it's just like, man, buy now. If it works for you, and that brings me back to like my normal, spiel is, if it works for you and you can afford that mortgage, then it's a good time to buy, because it's only going to get easier and better as you, make more money, or even if you don't, as you refinance into lower payments, as you pay off your loan, one day you'll pay off that loan and you'll have no payment. Then you'll be living with only utilities and stuff. So it really is always a good time to buy. You just have to figure out what location and what situation works best for you.
What price point, what payment point. Yep. That makes sense. And that's what we're here for, to help guide you through that. Joe can get you pre-approved, and you can tell him what your ideal payment looks like. And then we can translate that to a purchase price and figure out what communities you can afford.
Right.
And at that point, then you can pick the house you want and the community out of the communities that are an option, and with the payment that you can afford.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and maybe right now, like, this is your first home, right? Let's get that planned, because this may not be your forever home, right? So understanding, let me get this home, and maybe this becomes a rental property when you buy your next home or your forever home. So.
And that is another thing I want to touch on. Make decisions for what your needs are right now. Like, me and my husband just got in a huge fight couple weeks ago about a trailer we don't even own. We're like, we want to get a travel trailer and go tour and stuff. And then he was like, okay, yeah, let's do that. Like, we don't own it. We haven't really looked too much into it, but we moved our gazebo over 5 inches. And then we got in a fight about this little kid trampoline that would be where the trailer is supposed to be parked. We don't own a trailer. We don't have it. Why are we fighting over a trampoline location in our backyard? Because we don't even have that trailer. So why even have those discussions when you don't need that space?
The hypotheticals can be really discouraging. And you may be like, well, I really want a 4-bedroom because we want to have kids. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't have kids now, a 3-bedroom will work, and you can use the equity that you build, which is the money that you make when your value increases, sell the property, and then buy that 4-bedroom.
Right.
And
so just try to, buy for what your needs are. And obviously, if you want to have a little bit of room for growth, that's there. But you really should just be realistic about what your true needs are right now and buy for that purpose. And then really lean into the experts in those fields. Find a lender that is an expert in his field. Find a realtor, whether that be us or somebody else, but I don't go, okay, I am not an expert in financial advising, so I just kind of like wing it. No, I find the expert and I trust them and their advice because they are the expert. Like we're only human. We're not experts in every single thing. So
Right.
I outsource when I need something that I'm not an expert in. I reach out and I truly lean on those people because I need to be able to trust them, and their advice knows way more than what I
Right.
know when I'm not.
They're
the
doing
expert in
every
those
day and they
areas.
specialize
Right,
in can
right. So I truly want people to find someone that they trust, because trusting whatever topic it is, the expert in that topic is going to help you make the best decision possible for you and your situation.
Thank
yeah.
you so much.
So we'll see you guys next time. This is Brittany Davis
And
and
Leanne Slaton, we're here with
Joe the Mortgage Giant.
we hopefully will see you again soon. Thank you so much.
Bye.